I'm Sean Thompson. I'm the nation's leading expert on mortgages featuring renovation financing. And this is the Renovation Rundown.
Later. How you been, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah, we get together every now and again, and I like to call you the OG of renovation lending, and I don't think anybody will argue with me about that. But I'm happy to see that you're still in it big time, and B,
Yes.
have so much to contribute to the conversation. How you been?
Been good. And a lot of that is just because I'm a lot older than you, of course. So I got started a little sooner. But yeah, I've had a lot of practice and been good.
So
Good.
that's a good way to kind of start what I wanted to talk about with you, because it's the perspective of the ones that have been in a long time that I'm interested in, because I think, and I'm not going to use the word technology, but I think, the life experience has changed so much that I think we may miss how much easier the renovation lending process is than the stigma allows for, if that makes sense, right?
It makes a lot of sense.
Like you think about it, and I wrote a couple things down that you and I can talk about as we go. Listing pictures are ubiquitous was the first thing I thought about, right? So it wasn't always the case that you had a good feel for what the property was before the customer even bid on it, before the lender even got it, dare I say, before appraisals and contractors. We have that now. That makes life so much easier for us and the customer, for that matter.
Yes, it does. And frankly, anytime we talk to a customer or a realtor or referral partner, and they're talking about a specific property, we immediately ask them for an address. And as we're talking to them, we're going on our computer and we're looking at the pictures you just described.
It feels intrusive and scary to some degree. As soon as somebody starts talking to me about buying a house, I'm like, blah, what's the address?
Yeah,
go ahead, check it all out. Yeah.
Let's go. We didn't have a chance to do that years ago. You would talk to somebody, you'd have to talk to 3 different people about what they thought about the house, and then you had to get your own idea. Maybe even get in the car and go look at it. But it's much easier with the technology.
But you got to think I remember adding so much time to the transaction back then, because you operated for weeks under one assumption just to get an entirely different one when you finally saw the house. When the appraisal came back. All right. So that was one thing. How about the scope of work, or the scope of work price being automated? I'm talking about deriving at a contractor's bid or an estimate, or here's how much to do this work, or here's what the work is. Like, I don't think people realize how many contractors, in fact, have an automated process for doing this. Sure. They have either an online tool or some sort of picture to bid tool that makes it easy for them to estimate these jobs. Like, it's not a contractor with a big giant ruler, and he comes in and he does your floor, and, he writes on a piece of paper, and then he goes home and sits in his garage and tries to figure out how much he would do. Like, that's not happening anymore.
No, it doesn't. Their jobs are easier because of that. Well, maybe easier is the wrong word. They can execute their jobs much better with the technology that's available today. We never really got a good hard number until well into the process before. And you're right, it took a little bit longer because of that.
And God forbid something had to change, right?
Sure. Oh, geez, something changed like at least 5 times in every process.
Yep.
And it's not that way anymore. It's much more efficient now than it used to be.
Yeah. Okay. So listing pictures, scope of work, qualifying for Reno from the lender's perspective, lender and customer perspective, right? So you think about what's so much easier there. The whole mortgage industry is easier in writ large, but in our world, there was a shuffling of paperwork, that was unbelievably onerous, right? This one's got to sign and that one's got to sign the same one, and we got to have the wet signature on both of them, and I got to get it back from him first, and then I got to give it to you. Like, that's not a thing anymore, right? DocuSign is a thing. You sign like this right now. You get, oh, there it is. And you hit something and it's gone.
And you're right. You're pushing buttons and you're done.
Right.
But even Sean, I want to go back a step with you, because you're right on those pieces of the process. Getting the numbers, the inspection, and putting the paperwork together, and all those kind of things. But even before that, what we used to have so much trouble with was the fear that people had for the transaction itself, right? So now with the technology, and frankly, you do the best job of it with your videos and your postings and all of those kinds of things. We can really get in front of people better than we used to be able to introduce the program, to introduce the features and benefits and those kinds of things. We didn't have those chances before. It was, you really had to struggle to get in front of somebody to convince them that there were good things here. We have the chance now with the technology we have to have a better introduction of the program and its solutions to the problems people have in buying older homes. And it changes things, and it really helps to get rid of that fear in the beginning, which is always the biggest roadblock.
Yeah. And, I guess I couldn't have said it better, man. We get to touch so many different people, and that's given way, for good or for bad, Jim, to some faux markets out there.
Sure.
Where you see like this, it's like an investor group with 90,000 people in it, and they're all people who want to buy their first investment property with $7 in the bank, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going, what's going on? Like, that's not a real thing. What's happening over there? So, but for good or for bad, you can reach a wider swath of professionals, which I see you and I are both trying to do. Talk to our peers, our real estate agents, because I say this all the time, man, and you know this better than anyone. People find our world in renovation lending not because of the loan officer and realtor, but in 2024, in spite of the loan officer and realtor.
It's true.
And that's not a good thing, because this is the most opportunistic time for these loans. People need us now more than ever.
Yeah. But it is all about that perception people have always had. Takes too long, costs too much, too many people involved, too much paperwork. All of those old perceptions and we run into every day, as you know. And breaking that mold is challenging, and it's going to go on for a long time yet. And the shame of it is, takes too long, too many people, too much money, and renovation loans are just for lousy houses and bad borrowers and all those. That's not it. It's just not it. It is for just a young couple going in to see a house, and they love the house and hate the kitchen. And instead of walking away because they know how much money that's going to cost, if someone just was able to describe the solution of a renovation loan and the features and benefits they can enjoy, we'd just be able to get a lot further.
It's funny you bring it up that way. I see often the dissonance going on in a first-time home buyer's head. They grew up watching the sort of the makeover HGTV culture stuff.
Yeah.
And then they go out and a realtor or loan officer tells them, no, you can't do that. You just got to buy it the way it is and deal with it later. And there's a dissonance. There's something in their head, but I thought that and it doesn't connect. And I think we're still waiting for that to happen. And I think we're on the precipice of people realizing that, I'm not going to listen to that anymore. Like the whole industry is being upended the way the 6% commission is going, the way the financing industry is going. I think people will get to the source, to the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, if you will, a lot quicker and with a little bit more real information, like these things do exist. And you can do, and you don't have to exhaust your savings, and end up with, the house the way it is. You can exhaust your savings, but at least it can include 60, 75 grand in renovation, at the same time. Right.
Yeah, that's absolutely, it's true. And I think it all, again, goes back to the fact that, realtors always have this perception. Takes too long. I'm not going to get to the closing on time. And we, we try all the time, but we got to keep doing a good job getting them to understand that isn't the case when you deal with someone who's really an expert in the program line. And I'm sure yours is the same way. Our purchase transactions take less than 45 days to close on the average.
Sure.
And it's just something you can accomplish. But when lenders jump in and they just want to grab what they can and don't have the right processes in place, they take too long. Realtors still see that and perceive that as renovation loans, and it's not.
Yeah, they can't tell the difference between the expert
Right.
and the novice, and the novice hopes that they can't tell the difference.
Right.
That's wild. And I see this a bit, like perpetuating the stereotype, that these loans take a long time, with realtors. I don't know, Jim, we talk about this quite a bit. How do you break through with that? I had Lee Smith, on a little while ago.
Yep.
And that was the impetus for our conversation. Was I asked Lee, I said, listen, how are you doing it? How are you convincing the buyer agent and the listing agent? This might even be the highest offer, by the way. But how are you convincing them, that this transaction isn't going to take any longer? It's going to be fine. And I think that's the missing part. I talked about all those improvements in the way that the business is done earlier on. The missing part is what you're alluding to: the sales knowledge, the confidence, the predictability, the risk management on it,
and that can't be solved with technology. That the solution there, in my experience, is you got to get the people involved to talk to the people that are going to come up with a solution. You got to have that personal conversation. When we get the opportunity to talk to somebody, it doesn't take long for them to understand. We know what we're talking about. Yep. I'm sure you have the same experience.
Yep.
So that's what we try to accomplish quickly, is getting to the buyer, getting to the selling realtor, and getting to the listing realtor. Because when we can have our conversation, rather than just letting them run with whatever they're thinking, when we can have our conversation, they're going to understand we got 30 years experience at this. We're not messing around. We do this on purpose. We don't do it by accident.
You got it.
Right?
I tell you, it's often that I get, and we both coach, probably thousands of loan officers in our career. Lately, the sort of pushback I get, it's a soft excuse. It's an excuse nonetheless, but it's breakable, right? The excuse is, I get punished for bringing this up with my realtors. I tried it and I'm not doing it anymore. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's like playing golf and you took your first swing and you sucked at it. So, I mean, you're probably going to have to swing like a few more times before you get really good at it and you have some predictability. But I think that's the trick. I mean, I don't lose deals that get in front of me. If I'm selling a renovation loan, it's pretty easy.
Right.
I'm not going to lose it. Right.
Yep.
So, and that took a bit of practice. Right. So,
what we do with our loan officers is we educate them to a degree, and then we work with them when they're talking to a borrower or a buyer and they're just starting to think about renovation. We encourage our loan officer, get us on a conference call. You can do that 24/7. It doesn't matter, on your cell phone.
Yep.
Just get us on the call with you, and we will help you educate the borrower on what they can accomplish.
I've been thinking a lot about that point of sale piece.
Yeah.
And that's the trick, because Jim, we got, the number was somewhere around 5.5 million units mortgages done in 2023. And a close estimate of renovation loans in that bundle was about 19,000. So you divide 19,000 into 5.5 million, and it's it's a laughably small number.
No, Nothing.
It's loud. So and then I see these homes because we see the listing, right? We see them.
Yep.
And I'm like, how did that happen? Right? How did
Sure.
you let that happen? Why aren't
Yeah.
at least 1 million of these a year being done? Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of what we're talking about right now.
No, you're right. People don't see it as an advantage to buying a house.
Mhm.
You know, they see it as punishment. And realtors and loan officers use it when they need that as a band-aid, rather than using it as some good medicine to get what you want accomplished.
Yeah.
It
It's almost
shouldn't
like
be.
the voluntary renovation purchases don't get an opportunity to shine. It's only
Yeah.
the ones that you need to
Have
do it
to
because
have
you
it.
can't get a
Yeah.
loan otherwise.
Right.
You know, the house is in such disrepair. This is the only way to do it. But
Yeah.
all of those voluntary ones where it's it's an ugly, kitchen or doesn't have granite countertop, God forbid, right? That you don't get a chance to use this, right?
I think that's particularly important now because of the lack of inventory.
Yep.
You know, realtors get their pre-approved buyers and they take them out to see their dream houses, and they can't afford them because they're $300,000 more than their
That's right.
budget. Then they take them out to what they can afford, and it's just the ugly dog on the block.
That's right.
And they don't have the vision to see that that is an advantage to helping someone get to home ownership.
And bro,
Right.
you just described every Property Brothers episode, by the way.
Yeah.
Every single one. Right.
True. It's the truth. Yeah.
So Jim, it's always good to get a chance to catch up with you.
Thank you.
Tell folks where to find you and kind of what you do, and and I'll give you a little plug here.
I appreciate that. I manage renovation lending for Advisors Mortgage. We're licensed in 32 states, and I've been around a very long time, managed some big platforms, but love the little company I'm with. And we just continue to do what we can to preach the gospel of renovation loans in our little department, because they're an advantage to somebody when they're looking for a house that's a little less expensive. It's going to have some issues, and we can help them solve the problems of getting into that house. And it really literally is exactly as I described. There's so many people right now that are going out and looking at houses, and they love the neighborhood and the 1 block walk to the school, but it's got an ugly kitchen with orange countertops and avocado appliances.
Yep.
Well, this can solve that, and we love to do that. Advisors is headquartered in New Jersey, and I work out of New Jersey. We have a website for our brand. We've branded our renovation platform Fix It Mortgage, fixitmortgage.com -in fix it. And we try to do a little education there with some videos, as you do. And it's in my 35 years of doing these loans, now is the best time for us to help people, because there are a lot of people that need us. Listing agents need more help in getting sellers to make that decision, when instead of trying to get them to spend the money on a new kitchen before they sell, when it might be the wrong colors for the buyer. They just need a better marketing strategy to sell the house with a renovation solution. And then buyers, when they're looking for cheaper homes, they're gonna need some work. They can roll it right into their mortgage, and it's a much more economical decision to go that way.
Well, I couldn't have said it better. I appreciate all the work you've done pioneering this when I was
Thank
5
you,
years
Sean.
old, but really good. So,
I love talking to you, brother. I love talking about this stuff.
all right, Jim. Well, you know what? You take care, folks. Jim Ragan. What else do I need
Thanks,
to say?
Sean. Great to be with you, buddy.
So long.
Take it easy. I'll talk to you soon.